Howdy, I'm Devin Noel Lee with Family History Fanatics, and if you're like me, you might be a little confused about Roots Magic and its ability to work with Ancestry, Family Search, and then the third party of Roots Magic. So I have Arm Twisted, my buddy here from Roots Magic, to tell you how to make this happen. So Bruce, here's the situation. I've been a Roots Magic user for a number of years, and so I have a Roots Magic tree. When Family Search allowed us to sync there, I have my Roots Magic tree, and it syncs with Family Search.
Okay.
Now I also have a tree on Ancestry, and it's synced to all the links over there. But what I've seen since the new we can sync to Ancestry with Roots Magic is that there's no easy way to sync my Roots Magic to Family Search tree with my Ancestry tree without doing a lot of merging. But if that's possible, let me know. What do I need to do?
Okay, a lot of it's going to depend on how you're starting. Okay, if you're starting and you have a tree in Roots Magic and a tree up on Family Search and a tree on Ancestry, all three, then it becomes tougher. What you really need to do is decide which of those trees has the most complete tree. Okay? In other words, does one of them kind of have everything, and it's the other two that you want to keep updated?
Okay.
Now, once you've decided on that, then it kind of depends on which one of those three you decide is the most complete as to how you're going to do it, because it works differently for each one. So, for example, with Roots Magic syncing with Ancestry, what you have to do to kind of start that is you either have to upload a Roots Magic file to a new Ancestry tree,
okay,
or download an existing Ancestry tree into Roots Magic. You have to do one of those two. You can't just sit there and say, I've got this existing Roots Magic file and this existing Ancestry tree, somehow match them up and link everybody up properly. You can't do that. It has to start with an upload or a download, one or the other. Okay. Going from Roots Magic to Family Search, you have a couple of options. With Family Search, you can go in and download data from Family Search into a new Roots Magic file, so you can go that way. But what you can't do is you can't upload an existing Roots Magic file to Family Search Family Tree. They don't allow you to do a mass upload.
Right.
So,
which I like, by the way.
Yeah. So,
I like that.
But the one thing that Roots Magic and Family Search do allow you to do is go in and do that manual, link this person in Roots Magic to that person up on Family Search. You can do that kind of the one person at a time. Very tedious, but it is available there, whereas that starting that way with Ancestry is not an option.
Okay, now that makes more sense then that we can't, because I kept going, well, why can't I do the same thing with Family Search, the link individual, so I can keep things the same, but we can't do that, is what you're telling me.
Right, you can't do that.
Okay.
And part of the reason for that is with Family Search, we have the ability to go out to Family Search and say, hey, Family Search, here's a person that I have in Roots Magic. Does that person exist up on Family Search? And Family Search will come back and say, yes, that person. Here are several matches. This one is the best, and it tells us how good of a match that actually is.
Okay, good.
Ancestry does not give us that ability. We can't go out and say, here's a bunch of information. Here's a person. Here's a name and birth date and birthplace and all this information. Does that person exist up in that Ancestry tree? And have Ancestry come back and say, yes, that person exists with this amount of confidence, with this confidence level. It does not have that ability to let us do that. So we can't do that and ask for that. So that's why we can't automatically let you easily say, take this person in Roots Magic and this other person up on Ancestry and connect them together. Let me link them together.
Okay.
With Ancestry, an Ancestry tree, we can kind of ask for it by name, and that's about it.
Okay.
So the bottom line is, down the road, we may be able to let you do something along those lines.
Okay.
But what that involves is downloading a bunch of your tree from Ancestry and us doing all the comparisons and making the decisions. How confident are we that this person in Roots Magic is the same as that person on Ancestry?
Okay.
So that's why that doesn't work.
Okay, so that's the hurdle. That's the background.
Yeah, so that's kind of the hurdle in the background.
Okay, what am I going to do?
Yeah, so basically what you're going to do is, like I say, it depends on where your more complete file is.
Okay.
So if let's just do the different examples.
Yes, that'd be great.
If your most complete tree is on Family Search, that actually is the easiest.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that's not usually the case.
Right.
That's not usually the case. And so what's going to happen is if you've got Roots Magic here, and you've got Family Search here, and you've got Ancestry here, if your most complete tree is in Family Search, what you can do is in Roots Magic you can download your tree from Family Search. You just go into what we call Family Search Central, choose the option to download, select who the starting person is, how many generations of ancestors, descendants, whatever, and it will download your tree from Family Search into Roots Magic.
Okay.
Then you can turn around and you can upload from Roots Magic to Ancestry. You run the Ancestry tree share feature, and when you do that, it will say, do you want to upload this to Ancestry? And you say yes, and so you upload that to a new Ancestry tree. So that works great. You know, you've basically taken your tree from Family Search, you've brought it into Roots Magic, and you put that same tree up onto Ancestry.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the easy way. Let's say your most complete tree is in Ancestry.
Okay.
Okay, well, you can take that Ancestry tree and you can download that into a new Roots Magic file. So with that part, you're good.
Right.
Now you have that. Now you have the problem, though, that Family Search does not allow you to upload an entire tree to Family Search.
Right.
The reason for that is because Family Search is a global tree. Okay, everybody's working on the same big tree, and they don't want you to take your 5,000 people that you just downloaded from Ancestry and throw them up onto Family Search when 4,000 of those people might already be in Family Search.
Right.
So what you have to do is it's basically a two-step process. The first step is easy. The second step is tedious. The first step is what's called auto match.
Okay. Auto match.
I don't know if I can do this upside down.
That's some skill. That is some skill.
Okay, so you do a feature. There's a feature called Auto Match, and that's in that Family Search Central also. There's a button up there at the top that says Auto Match.
Okay.
What that does is that goes through your entire Roots Magic file and matches each person in that file with Family Search. It says, hey, Family Search, is this person up there? Yes. And if they are, and Family Search says, we are very, very confident that your person is the same as this, Roots Magic will match them up. It will say this person in Roots Magic is the same as that person on Family Search.
And it establishes the link, but it doesn't transfer data yet.
It just links that person in Roots Magic to that person in Family Search, but no data transfers.
No, okay.
Okay. Now, what that will do is that can take a long time, especially on a big file, because Family Search will do what's called throttling. They will say, Roots Magic, you're asking for too much information too quickly. Slow down, and so we have to slow down. So on a big file, that can take a while. So start it up before you go to bed and just let it run during the night.
That's a good tip.
Okay. And now once it's done that auto match, what you'll have is you'll have everybody in Roots Magic matched up to Family Search where there is a definitely good match there. Now, there may be some people in Roots Magic that are not on Family Search, so they won't be matched. There may also be people in Roots Magic that are on Family Search, but what you have is enough different from what Family Search has that Roots Magic and Family Search couldn't link them up together. Okay, so what you have to do is those people, you have to go through manually each one and do that.
Okay.
Now, what you can do is in Roots Magic, you go into Family Search, into our Family Search tools, and what that does is that gives you a list of everybody in Roots Magic, And when you click on them, you can see the Roots Magic person side by side with that Family Search person. Well, above that list, there's a couple of filters. And one of those filters is an option to only show me the people that have not been matched to Family Search yet.
Okay.
So that will filter that side list, so only the people that are not already matched to Family Search will be in that list. So you can select one. When you click one, it will show you on the Find Matches screen, it will show you matches on Family Search.
Okay.
And if there are no matches on Family Search, you can click a button and it will add that person from Roots Magic to Family Search. If there are matches, you can analyze the match and you can say, oh, that is the same person as mine, and just click the checkbox and say, yeah, match them up, and it will match them.
Okay.
So that second part is kind of an automatic one. It's not automatic.
No.
It's a one at a time
Okay.
match where you have to go through each person. So that's the tedious part.
Now let me stop you there for a second.
Okay.
If they're not matched to Family Search and they're living and you didn't put them in the tree, then that's not going to be something you can do. That'll be something you have to add.
Yeah, if they're living, if the person in Roots Magic is living, that auto match is not ever going to find them, because when you look for them, they won't be in the Family Search database.
Okay.
Living people on Family Search are only in your own little private thing.
Okay.
It looks like they're part of the tree, but you're the only one that can see the living people. You have to add living people yourself.
Okay, I like that clarification. Thank you.
Okay.
And then that matches, and then you need to go back and go one by one through each person and compare the data.
Right, and compare the data and do the ones that weren't automatically matched.
Okay.
The third is...
This is my problem, I think. I think he's going to my problem.
The third is when your most complete file is in Roots Magic.
Right.
Okay. And what you're going to have to do there is, if your most complete data is in Roots Magic, you can upload that to a new Ancestry tree.
Okay.
Okay. And so this part right here is always pretty straightforward for the most part. So your most complete file, you upload from Roots Magic to Ancestry, you're there.
Yeah.
Then, to go from Roots Magic to Family Search, you have this exact same problem. You have to do this exact same thing. You have to do the auto match. And then, once you've done the auto match, you have to do that one at a time thing.
Okay, and so I guess what's going to happen is I'm getting my answer from you, and he doesn't work through Ancestry, so it's okay if he says I don't know. But what happens is, so if I have my complete tree in Roots Magic and I have it synced to Family Search, the best thing for me to do is upload to Ancestry.
Right.
But what's going to happen is going to start all those hints all over again. I'm guessing.
Right. Yeah. So
the
big problem, which is what you're having, and unfortunately there's not an easy way around it, is when you have a file in Roots Magic and you have your tree up on Ancestry and, maybe Family Search, and maybe you're like, well, I've got this tree in Roots Magic and it's got some data that Ancestry doesn't, but Ancestry, that tree has some people that Roots Magic doesn't.
Right.
There's not a way to sit there and, like I say, there's not a way to automatically kind of connect these two.
Okay.
You have to do an upload to a new tree or download into a new Roots Magic file. So what you end up having to do here is, if you're wanting to keep all the hints on that Ancestry
that you've already processed.
It's basically the bottom line is you want to keep the tree that you least want to redo.
Okay.
So in other words, if you're like, my Roots Magic file is fine, but there's stuff up here that's not there. You'll end up having to manually take that extra stuff from Ancestry and bring and manually put it into Roots Magic first and then upload it.
Okay.
On the other hand, if that Ancestry tree is up there and you don't want it to change, you want that same tree with the same URL and the same all of that and all the same hints, then what you're going to need to do is take anything that was in Roots Magic extra, add that to the tree up there, and then download that into a new Roots Magic
So
file.
I had this one other thought, and he's going to correct me if I'm wrong. So I had this one thought in a conversation with some people on the Facebook group, and they said, download your ancestry tree to Roots Magic and do the match merge thing, but make sure you save your ancestry file. Is that a solution, or do you think that's just opening a can of worms?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Because Roots Magic's going to be a lot better at cleaning up. It's a lot easier to clean up your data in Roots Magic than up on Ancestry.
Which is why I like Roots Magic.
Yeah, so what you can do is you can download your tree from Ancestry into Roots Magic, clean everything up there, and then what you'll have to do is you'll go into the Tools menu, and then go down to File Options. And in the File Options, you'll have the various, Ancestry, Family Search, and everything. You click on Family Search, and on Ancestry, and there'll be an option to disconnect Roots Magic from that Ancestry tree. And so what you can do is go in there and after you've downloaded it, you clean up everything here, you disconnect from that tree. And once you disconnect from that tree, the next time you go into Tree Share, it's going to say, hey, do you want to upload that to Ancestry? And so you can say yes, and what that will do is let you upload that to a different Ancestry tree. So your original Ancestry tree will still be there, but you'll have that Roots Magic file linked to a different one. So that's another option.
There's a lot of options there. I hope one of them works for you. Long and the short of it, I've got a lot of work if I'm going to make my Roots Magic be my central hub to talk to Family Search and Ancestry. And heaven help us when we finally can use Roots Magic to talk to MyHeritage and the other websites out there. Oh my goodness. But thank you so much for explaining it. I hope that helps. If you have any further questions, be sure to put them in the comments below, and I'll make sure that Mike or Bruce stop by and give you your answers. If you like this video, be sure to press the red thumbs up so that this video will reach more viewers.